Welcome everyone to Digital Marketing 101 for Visual Artists. We are here today to talk about digital marketing, the beginning to the end, a simple seven-step process to help you get your art business off the ground and build your online brand. Today's session is hosted by the Mississauga Business Entrepreneur Centre in partnership with the Mississauga Culture Programs. A little bit about our host, the Mississauga Business Entrepreneur Centre. Your central source for small business information, resources, and guidance. We're open Monday to Friday from 9 till 5. Free business information and guidance, webinars, workshops such as this, resources and tools, training and mentorship programs, as well as various entrepreneurship programs. To learn more about what we do and contact us, mississauga.ca/MBEC is the only URL you have to remember. Tiana.
All right, well, hello everybody. I'll begin by introducing myself and then Eldiana, who's going to speak after me, I'll let her introduce herself. So my name is Brienne Gasho. I'm the supervisor of literary, digital, and visual arts programs with the City of Mississauga. So I just wanted to give you just kind of a quick plug of what Culture Programs does with the city if you're unfamiliar. I know we have some people here today who are part of our programs, either enrolled in them or who help to instruct our programs. But I'll just give you a little bit of information. So culture programs at the City of Mississauga, our programming team works within the larger culture umbrella, which is part of community services within Mississauga. There are two main streams of culture programs. So we have performing arts, and then we have literary, digital, and visual arts, which, as I mentioned, is the area in which I am the supervisor of. We do offer kind of a number of different programs as part of culture programs. So one of the things we do is community programming. Some of you here today might have taken, an art class at a community center or, a digital program at Central Library when it was open. So those are the programs that we offer kind of after school evenings and weekends for children and adults alike. Now, in addition to community programs, we do also run school programs. So this is something a little bit newer to us, but the Mississauga museums have been running school programs for a while, and we are going to begin offering them in winter of 2022 here at the Living Arts Centre, which is kind of where we are headquartered. In addition to school programming, our team also oversees the Poet Laureate program. So the City of Mississauga has a Poet Laureate program that sees one Youth Poet Laureate and one Poet Laureate that are kind of within this position at any given time. We are making an announcement excitingly next week about our next Poet Laureate. So if you're interested in the literary arts, that's something neat to check out. And then finally, another major thing that's part of our programming under our umbrella is the resident artist program. So I'm not going to go into that too much because Eldiana is going to speak to you a little bit more about the resident artist program. But you can always check us out, mississauga.ca/culture, and see what we have going on in terms of programming. Eldiana, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Eldiana Begovic. I am a cultural programmer that works with Brienne for the literary, digital, and visual arts programs with the City of Mississauga. Just to add on to all of our cultural programs, we have the Resident Artist Program. If you're familiar with it, it offers studio spaces in the Living Arts Center. I understand that some of the attendees tonight are our resident artists. The program is a membership-based program, long-term memberships for 1 year for new graduates and practicing artists. It's an opportunity for artists to work on their practice and develop and maintain their careers. So it's for supporting emerging and mid-career artists, but we also offer short-term project-based residencies as well. The LSC offers professionally equipped studios with space in the areas of photography, painting, drawing, glass, wood, just to name a few. And mentorship and career development opportunities are also available throughout this program. If you'd like to learn more, please visit the link at the bottom. The Resident Artist Program will be accepting applications sometime next year, so please keep checking the website for more details.
Great, thank you. So we'll get started. A little bit about my background. I am an entrepreneur at heart. I have been doing, I think I started my first business at 19, 20. It was a bike shop. It was great, loved it. 20 years later, sold it and worked for a tech startup, and then went back and became focused on communications, as it is, to me, one of the most fundamental things for all of us as entrepreneurs to build a successful organization. And saying that, 4 years ago, I started with MBEC, the Economic Development Office here at the city, and for the primary reason to help people like you guys build your business and with your digital marketing expertise, to help you learn how to do that more. So that is why I'm here today, to help you, and I hope you do reach out to me on social media. I'm at Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Laura L. Dunkley. You can also check out my blog at lauradunkley.com and connect with me through my work email at laura.dunkley@mississauga.ca. Entrepreneurship. Just before, to set the stage, let's remember that we're here today remembering that, especially with digital marketing, that it is a journey and not a destination. It is a love along the way. And to remind ourselves too that just like our artists, like you guys, that to get masterpieces somewhat like this, it didn't happen overnight, as well as entrepreneurship and digital marketing. And to remember the most valuable thing you can make is a mistake. You can't learn anything from being perfect. I know you understand that as an artist. That's what we do. We put things out there, but also for digital marketing. So don't be afraid of putting it out there. I'm going to help you build strategies so that it's focused on your brand. But just remember, we're here to get out, and your audience wants to hear from you. And strong brands. Building your online brand, just remember that a strong brand on average achieves triple the sales volume of weaker brands and a 13% price premium. So this is why we spend our time now learning about how to build your brand, and especially online, where most of our audiences are now. So it's definitely worth the effort. And if you can remember 3 things today along the way as you think, is this right for me? Am I doing the right thing? Just remember that you need to build trust with your audiences. You want to always remember to give value, and they're looking for an experience. So as you make your decisions and every time you put a piece of content out or engage in a conversation, ask yourself if you are doing one or all of the 3 things here. So some trends. What is happening in digital marketing these days? Well, when I started these Digital Marketing 101 series back in 2018, we would always do the stats. And I remember putting up, it was just over 3 billion internet users. Fast forward 3 years later, and now we have 4.8 billion plus internet users and continuing to rise. They're online. 89,000 Google searches done a second. And people, 6+ hours consumers are spending on the internet a day. We did not have this 3 years ago. So this is why it's more important than ever before that we spend time online building our brand. And 68% will spend more time online post-pandemic than they did before. So the effort that we put into this is well worth it. So digital marketing, the 7-step guide, these are 7 steps that I've come up with. If you follow them, you're pretty much going to be successful. Just understand that it doesn't always come in a linear way. We're updating different things along the way, but it's somewhat a process of following 1 to 7 steps. And we're going to take you through that journey today, starting with the business plan. So what is the business plan, and does it have to be as robust and it takes so much effort and most people get scared by it? It doesn't have to be. I'm going to show you some things that you as a visual artist can think about to keep the process a little bit more simpler, and know that this business plan is an evergreen document that you will constantly be updating based on your progress and having to pivot and be agile, but also as your market changes. So the questions to ask is, what is your why? Who are you? And what sets you apart from the competition? And really, why are you doing this in the first place? What that translates to in the business plan world, it's your vision, values, mission, your value added proposition, and competitive advantage. These are really important questions to set the stage as you build your business. Because if you don't know why you're showing up, it's really hard to be passionate and even who to connect with. These are fundamental questions that will help guide you as you build out your business plan. And where do you want to go with your business? Quite often, this is not just for artists, this is for everyone. Understanding what level you want to build your business to. Some people want to just keep it as a hobby. It's just a side gig. Other people actually want this to be full time. Really, what do you want to do? Is this something that maybe you're just going to do it for a short period of time, and maybe you're going to do it for forever? Maybe it's something you want to sell at some point. Understanding where you want to go with your business and what drives you will help set the stage for those strategic questions you need to answer, and that is your goals. And then what resources do you have to reach these goals? Do you have money, time, and skills? And we're going to make sure all of this has to be written down because it will change. But these are the things like the cash flow analysis and all really hard business stuff. But it doesn't have to be fancy. Just put it up in a Google Sheet or an Excel sheet and make sure that you actually allocate your time. Because if you are in business, you're in business to make money or to at least get the return on investment that you're looking for to meet your goals. So find out what you have to make that happen. And that money, time, and skills, time might not just be yours. Time might be someone else, a partner, a collaborator. What is it going to take to get it done? And how will you generate revenue? So what are you actually selling? This is you're passionate about your art and you're putting it up there, and this is really great. But at the end of the day, you have to create a product that you need to sell, and you need to understand who you're selling it to. It could be a product, or maybe you're teaching, or maybe you're doing teaching and selling your artwork. Just be very clear on what that is, because it has to be a product, not just something that you're passionate about and you're putting down. So that has to be part of your business plan. And this is a good idea to do this, is to understand what's happening in the marketplace. So that is basically doing what we call an environmental scan. PESTLE is kind of that short form version for it, the acronym I used to remember. It's that what's happening politically, environmentally, socially, technical, legal, economic. You're going to see why the technical part is important now, because it actually will help your marketing, but also what's happening within your niche, your art and design world. And then what is everyone else doing? Who are you competing with? And it's not always direct competition. It might not be one painter to another painter. It just might be someone who is looking for something to go on the wall. Or it just could be one artist to another, that they just have X amount of dollars for budget and they need to decorate their house. So if you're into ceramics, maybe your ceramics is actually competing for someone else's painting budget. And that's where that competitive landscape has to go beyond just that direct competition. And who do you need to communicate with to be successful in your business? That's a really long way of saying basically who do you need to talk to? The primary person is obviously your ideal client, but there are other people that actually they're your stakeholders, those people that affect the success of your business. And from period and different times during your business, you are going to have to connect with them. It might be an investor, it might be collaboratives, it could be other influencers like the media or online, and you might also have a business partner. My recommendation is to do some level of a stakeholder map. Just put it up there and keep your eyes on it, and then really focus on that target audience. And we're going to talk about the target audience in a bit. And how will you sell your products? So that's your sales strategy. What are you going to do? Are you going into a gallery? Are you going to do print, like flyers and things like that? Are you going to have an online and e-commerce store? That's part of your strategy. And then how will you promote your business? That's your marketing strategy. That's really what we're focusing on today. But this piece, there's a blog down there, what you need to know before marketing. If you come to somebody to help them with your marketing, or you're thinking about your marketing and you haven't done all those other steps, you will not be successful, because you're just going to be going in all different directions. Having all that information, understanding what you're selling, why you're selling it, all of that competitive analysis is going to inform your marketing, and that's when the success starts to happen. And that comes to your business plan. So I ask you and I encourage you to write it down. Not only will that make you accountable, but it does help you actually formulate your ideas. So write it down, Google Docs, whatever that might be. It could be in a journal, know that you'll be updating it. It doesn't have to be perfect, stick it in bullets, but please write it down. Make sure your goals are very clear, long-term and short-term. Update it as needed. Make sure there's a timeline so that you're accountable to that timeline. Check in regularly. And that is your basic business plan to get started. If you want a more formal way, I don't typically do the business planning part, but if you do want help, we have resources online at that link. And we also have our small business consultant who can also help with business planning. So after that, you've got your business plan. This one is special just for you guys. And that's where I would say one of your first pieces and things you should do as an appendix to your business plan would be your media press kit. And that is, and I will share this link out afterwards to everyone. It will be part of the resource list. There is a great article that explains all of this, but pretty much what it is just a compilation of who you are, that introduction letter, a bio, your photo, who you are, your statement as an artist, different of your artwork images that you would have. You take your pictures. We're going to talk about photography later. Any press coverage you've had. If you have exhibition shows in the past, make sure you have a list and links to those so people can check it out. Future ones, any collabs, and your contact information. Put it all together, nicely packaged digitally, and have it prepared. So if you have a media opportunity, or you want to get into a gallery or whatever that might be, it's nicely packaged. Before you do a show, make sure you review it and update it. Really important piece, and it's also going to provide you with information that you can use for your website and a lot of the other stuff that we're going to talk about today. So that's one of the first things I would say to do. So the second one is target audiences. And the simple thing is, you just have to know them. Now more than ever, with the way the world works and how much data is available and how much people want personalized experiences, you really need to know your audience. I know we get caught up in our artwork and our actual business, but you have to get into their mindset, understand what motivates them. The age, the gender, careful with the gender, it's more of an identification piece. Where do they live and what do they work? Most people just settle on those kind of high level things. And I see it all the time where if I ask for target audiences, that's all they give me. You know, here they're this date, their age range, they live in this area, they work in this niche, and they make X amount of money. We need so much more to be able to target them effectively. Always be adding to this, especially when it comes to attitudes. What do they value? What kind of hobbies do they have and interests? And then what are their behavior buying patterns? And some of the other questions you can have, which help establish those very fine-tuned things about your audience, are challenges. Because at the end of the day, you are here to create a product or a service to sell to them, to help them through these challenges. Either you're going to make their lives better, or you're actually going to solve a problem. So what problem does your artwork actually solve for them? So if it is, I need to decorate my house, or I need to decorate a hotel, maybe it's a B2B. What are those challenges? Maybe they can't talk to certain artists and you're very personable, or they're looking for something custom and they can't get it. Really figure out what those challenges are so that you can help them overcome it with what you're offering. What is going to motivate them? This is another one that's key, because everyone thinks it's money. Everyone thinks, oh, my stuff is too expensive, and maybe it is, But if your audience actually is more motivated by your sustainability story or the fact that you're local, then that is the angle you need to present to them rather than just price. So really understand what your ideal customer is motivated by for purchasing. How can you help them? Why are choose you? That comes to that differentiator. Why are you different than your competition? What media do they use? Because that's going to answer those channel questions. And what do you want them to do? Do you want them to sign up for a webinar? Do you want to, or a learning opportunity? Do you want them to buy it? Are they just going to borrow something? Is it a consignment piece? Whatever that might be. And then another question is think about that secondary audience. And then there's a whole ton of research. Where do you find that information is usually what gets asked. You can go into focus groups, you can put out surveys, there's sales data that you've had in the past. Talk to people one-on-one, in-store, in-gallery traffic. Online research would be secondary. So the first part is that really rich qualitative kind of information. And the second part would be trends, things, what's happening, those keyword researches, and that was what we call secondary. So target audience is key. There's a whole bunch. I'm going to periodically, you're going to see the yellow banner pop up. That means we've done a webinar that dives into these a little deeper. And how to write a digital marketing plan, the boot camp is the one where you'll find a lot more information, including templates on how to build out your target audience. It's also the location where we have all the digital marketing events listed. So if you want to dive into this, that's where to find more information. And at the end, the result of this should be a persona of your, you're going to have your audience details, but you'll want to create this avatar, this ideal person, and you can either do it through a persona generator or you can actually just create it yourself. It's always nice to put a face and an actual person to who your ideal client is. So the third is set goals. One of the hardest things to do is set goals. I think we're all afraid to set goals in case we don't actually reach them. Don't worry about that. Actually put it down and know that that goal might change. And it usually to be smart, specific, it's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. But for what you need to get started in a broad sense, what we typically, these 4 types of goals are what we would consider for business goals. Do you want to actually increase your sales? Do you want to increase your profits? Are you looking to expand your market share, which may be a larger geography, or it might actually be into another niche within your market, and you also might want to expand your products and services. So those are business goals, and what certain tactics might be to support those goals to help you achieve that. There might be your product launches, exhibitions, maybe you're going to a new city, get into the fun stuff. Okay, so that is being said. Thanks, guys, for being patient. So your marketing goals are set, your business goals, you know what you want to achieve. So what do we need to do next? We need to make sure that we have the right channels. Now, this is going to be something in the strategy level. You're not going to change your channels all the time. And I know sometimes it's like, oh, it's not working and I want to switch to another channel. But channel is an investment. And a channel, what that is, if you're not sure, it is basically the method of which you're going to communicate. So that will be your website, that will be your social media, that could be your media outreach. So what is the right mix that you're going to have for your business to make it work? The website is key. You're going to hear me say that a lot. It is the center of everything. It is the hub. You own that website and it is your home address. I put blog on there because as much as it's a content tactic, it really does have its home on the website. Then we have to think about social media. You're not going to have all of these, but you have a few to pick from, and they keep changing and getting updated. There's also your Google business listing and other directories. That's actually considered a channel as well. There's messaging apps, including your chatbot, which would be a bit of a tactic. It's a channel still because you can communicate with them, but it is an add-on to your website, becoming very popular. Email marketing, another channel. Then we have our paid channel like digital ads, which could be Google ads, social media. And then I want to remind you that having an integrated marketing strategy is the most important. We talk about digital marketing, but really it's marketing in a digital world. And understand that there is traditional methods as well, and we need to think of it holistically, this omni-channel mentality. And so every time you do something like an ad in the newspaper, if you do calendars, even if you have a phone message or you're in a physical gallery or even brochures and print, think about how that's going to all work together and try and drive it back to your website. And the reason for that is it's less expensive is one reason, but mostly it's because you can track results. You can't track the clicks the same way in something that's printed. So send them back, keep that hub, and that's that single data hub source as well. So that's where you can start tracking all of that traffic and their activities. So what I've done to get started is I wanted to showcase an artist that I know back from my bike shop days, and thank goodness for social media because I've been following her for years. And so through this, I want to show you an example of how someone has gotten started, a potential mix, and then we're going to dive into things a little bit deeper, but showcasing channels sometimes works better than just telling you. So Kara is an artist, a painter. She does other stuff as well. So her hub, her website, to show you as an example, this is what it looks like when you land there. And then it goes into her different navigations. It shows her artwork, her process, about, and contact. So there's a picture of her working, as well as to let you know that she does do stuff online, and on her homepage is her actual art. Your homepage is prime real estate. So make sure whatever you have there is what you really want people to see first. And if you're selling your art online, definitely have that there. And then going into her other pages, these are your typical pages. It's not just her. It's come a long way. There was always arguments about what pages do you have and what don't you have. It's pretty much a fine-tuned process now in the types of pages. You do need to have a home. You have to have an about. It needs to explain who you are as an artist. Remember your media kit and your artist statement. This is one of the things that would go up here as well. And then process is a very typical piece more for the art and design world. So it's process and inspiration, and quite often a little video that you've done would work really well here as well to explain that. A little bit of your background, because people want to get to know the artist behind the art. And then you want to have a contact page. It's a place for people to fill it out. Now, when you do this, make sure that your contact page is connected with your email and that you test it and you monitor those emails, because you don't want someone going, oh, hey, I just want to talk to you about doing a piece on on your artwork, and it's a big magazine, or they want to get in touch with you to buy something. If you've ignored that email, then you've lost an opportunity. Not only lost a potential sale, but you've lost an opportunity to connect and give a positive experience. So make sure you do that. And also remember, as we get into email marketing, if somebody contacts you through your contact form, that does not mean that you are allowed to add them to your email marketing list. That email marketing there's Castle, and I'm going to talk about that. They have just contacted you to talk to you. They haven't given you express consent to add them to the email marketing list. So just make sure that when you manage your lists that you remember that. So her footer, when you go to the bottom, and like hers and yours, I'm sure has this as well, is that crucial part where it has your links to your social media. Please make sure those links are there. We drive people to the website and then we send them out to our social media so that they don't have to remember where you are all the time. Make sure that it's updated, it's current, and it works. If you're going from a template, um, quite often they'll be sitting there. Don't just leave them sitting dead. You have to make sure that they're either linked to your profiles or they're deleted. And that's really important. Also, make a note of where you're coming from. You might find people from all over the world looking for your art, and they quite often want to do that, as well as search engine optimization for local search is important. And then the other part of this is right at the bottom. You might have this, you might not have this, but there's been credit given to the photographers, which actually links over to their website. Part of this is courtesy, and actually you really do need to give them credit, but it also is a bit of a backlink strategy. So sending off to proper links actually helps with your search engine optimization, as long as you make sure that all of those links stay current. That artist or whatever happens and it breaks, it doesn't look good on you to have a broken link. The other thing that she has in here, and most people have, is your web designer will also have a link over to there, and they do, and it goes over to her website and explains what she does, and she happens to actually be an artist-specific web designer. The other part in the footer is that email sign up. So email marketing is important to you, and I'll tell you why. Most of you should consider that. Make sure it's there. Make sure you let people know what they're signing up for. When you do sign up for that, Kara has a double opt-in. I do recommend that you do that. And a double opt-in means it automatically generates an email that goes to the person's email address where they have to click to accept the subscription. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have actually done that. There's some reasoning behind that and why it's really important. One of it is that it shows your email service provider that this is a credible link, that you've linked on it, and so it's going to have it push back up to your not be considered spam, or less likely to be considered spam. And then it also verifies that someone didn't type something in wrong, right? Because we have that all the time, and then it will just bounce. So it helps keep your list clean, and it will help with your deliverability. And then put something nice in there and remind them. So what happens is with a double opt-in, and then you set up a welcome email, which is all automated through MailChimp and many other service providers. And then you send them a little thank you. It gives them a great experience, and it reminds them why they've signed up for the list. So that's an example of your website. Facebook, if you're going to do Facebook, and many of you said you do, make sure it's optimized, that everything is filled out. Kara has mentioned that she spends more time on Instagram. Put it in the about, make sure it's clearly communicated, and then all of her stuff from Instagram, it appears, I'm not sure if it's all, it comes over from Instagram, because you can actually post from there to Facebook. Is that a good idea? That has to be part of your strategy. And you need to think about that. But you do need to monitor, even if you spend time on Instagram, make sure you pay attention to your Facebook, because someone might want to message you there, and there's other opportunities we're going to talk about in Facebook as well. So here are some of the stuff, just to give you some examples, right? Show the background. People always want to see behind the scenes. Show your artwork, and then show your artwork in the space. People want to see what it looks like in this space, and there's so many ways to do mock-ups, and this gives it a nice space around it as well. Now, what has also happened on this, and I'll show you actually through the Instagram. So her Instagram, nice grid, but it doesn't have to be overly pretty. It represents her brand well. Her profile, make sure you fill out all your profile, including if you have any custom hashtags, and then make sure you have a profile link that makes sense. Linktree most people use, or you can direct it to your website. Just make sure that that landing page makes sense where they want to go, and then you can have multiple calls to action in there. And then showcasing one of her things, which you saw on Facebook, is one of this a showcase, and it talks about one of her paintings, and it mentions, and you'll see the at mentions as an example of other artists that are in here, including a gallery. And that's part of that engagement strategy we're going to touch base on later, is to make sure you mention galleries, maybe where it's being sold, other artists that you've done collaboratives, maybe it's part of an exhibition and you want to mention people, because as soon as you mention people or organizations, it pops up in their notifications, and then they have the opportunity to share it with their network. It's really an important thing to consider, as well as all the hashtags. Now, Instagram used to be, oh, you can do up to 30 hashtags. Well, not anymore. It's not encouraging you to do that many. They're really trying to scale that back. So they're encouraging you to be more value focused than just randomly putting up a whole bunch of hashtags. And she has a nice amount in there with 5 of them. And this is one of the galleries that she had mentioned, as well as some of the collaborative artworks. And they all have a really nice grid pattern. Now, someone asked in the questions, what if you're experimenting on something, and you have this lovely grid strategy? Well, I would say if you're experimenting, make sure it's strategic in your experimenting. So maybe every sixth post you put something up that's a little different, or maybe you decide that your stories are for your experiments and things like that. So just make sure whatever you do is intentional and it makes sense. And then if you do it periodically, consistency is really important. So if every sixth grid is going to be something unique and different, people are going to be waiting, right? It's that experience, that anticipation. Could be a kind of cool strategy, actually. So that is just one example to let you know. Now we're going to actually talk about what works for you. Now, how are you going to figure this out? And there's so many channels, there's so much kind of content. We have your business goals, you have your marketing goals, but now you need to figure out what channels. Well, there's a criteria list that I use. The first one is your audience. If your audience is there, you should be too. If your audience isn't there and you actually just like the channel, it's probably do it on your personal time, but for business, focus on who your audience is and then go and spend the time there. And then what are those trends? Are those trends that Facebook continues and is still the most popular? And even though with all of the disruptions that it's causing, the trend is that they continue to develop. So maybe that is the trend. Budget resources, how much time and money and skills do you have? So TikTok, most of you didn't say you were using TikTok, but it's that new emerging channel. Do you add TikTok in? Well, your audience is there and the trend seems to be consistent. But you know what? If maybe you don't have the skills to do it and you don't have the time to learn it, and there's a lot of content there, and you kind of go, maybe I'm not going to do it quite yet. And so those are those kind of questions to ask yourself. Regulations, if you have any particular regulations in your industry, or regulations like email marketing that we talked about, that Canadian anti-spam law. Is really important that you have to remember. And at the end of the day, how much effort do you have to put in to actually get the impact, the return on investment of your time and money out from it? So if you know that you're only getting a little bit and you've tested the water for a while, you have to evaluate whether you're going to stay, or maybe you've done some industry research and you're going, well, it's really a new channel and I'm really not sure if I'm willing to go through those channel learning curves to be able to get it. But that, at the end of the day, effort to impact. One of them is LinkedIn. And you guys had mentioned that you use LinkedIn, and I'm going to touch a little bit on there. There's not a great effort to get that started and just have a platform, because the expectation of the audience on there, right? TikTok wants you there all the time. LinkedIn, you don't have to be there all the time. So that's when you start going, maybe then it's worth it. And then the other thing is these three things you have to remember: owned, earned, and paid. Owned is where you need to spend most of your time. Those are things like your website, right? You know what happened with Facebook, and it's always kind of that leased land. They can shut down at any time, and pretty much they have access to all that content and can close the doors on you. So it's kind of leased land. It's important, but is that where you want to spend most of your efforts? And that's where that website, it's your owned content, and that's where primary effort should be. And then you go out and you have these community engagements. Paid is supplement, that's advertising. Earned is things like your media. And it's amazing and it's the sweet spot, but you can't pay to actually get that. And so you got to work really hard to get that, but it's awesome when it happens. And here's just an example, because you can't do it all. Maybe you have your website and you do a blog and Google My Business, and you do once a month, maybe you do email newsletters, and maybe you have X amount a month to spend on Google Ads, and you're going to do Instagram, Facebook, and maybe YouTube and TikTok, right? Like we talked about, maybe it's a future thing. So we'll talk about some of these, but I also want to remind you that consider your traditional marketing and how it's going to play into your strategy. So, website. This is it, getting started. Some of you already have websites, as you'd mentioned. Some of you are just getting started. This list will go towards anyone who's doing a redesign as well. Or it's an opportunity to have a look at your website and go, do I have everything? Is it optimized in the way it should be? So the first thing, if you are getting started, make sure you do register your domain name. Remember how you want to actually use your website. Do you want to use it to sell? Do you want to use it for branding? What are your business goals? We're going to pull this back into here because your website has to support that as a channel. Who's on your project team? Are you going to build it all yourself? Are you going to hire an intern? Are you going to actually hire a marketing agency to do it? Figure out what kind of resources, and it will help you with and how much time you have. Do you have the brand assets, your branding guide, your logo, guidelines, all of that? Don't get into it. Don't engage a designer and go, oh, I never thought about a logo. It's just going to pull things back. It's not that you can't go to them and say, hey, can you do a logo for me? But it will slow down the process. What content you have available is key. Starting with that media kit is a really good place to start. Do you have photography already of your artwork? Do you have video? Do you have text for your core pages? Do you have blogs that can go over? All of that is that content. You want to pull it together and then be able to give it to them. And that is quite often on the many websites that I have designed and clients in the past. It has always been content that has made a project stuck. And my clients were not able to bring forward the content to actually finish it because we can help finesse it. But you guys, you're the subject matter expert. You want to be able to collect that information for them. Make sure you have your admin and sales information, please. Whether you do it yourself, and this talks to all social media and all your channels, make sure you have admin access to everything. It's part of a business continuity. If someone leaves you or something gets lost, you want to make sure that you have full access to everything, including all the things you need for your e-commerce. Who will manage your content updates moving forward? Think about security. How will you track success? Because Google Analytics is key. It's free, but the only way you can start to track that is when you actually put in that little piece of code. It doesn't start to track it until that code is in place. So make sure that's done at the beginning. A lot of the site builders will have some data analytics in it. It's pretty high level though. Google Analytics is amazing and it is free. So just remember that it doesn't start to track things till that code is in there. And more on this is in that website 101 webinar that I have done, that you can learn all about that. So website platforms, what do they look like? There are so many out there. Squarespace is a popular, what we call a site builder. They do not have templates anymore, but you can go in and you can find something with a gallery that will get you started. Wix is the same, but they do have artistic templates that's available. They're two just of the very popular site builders. What I'm showing you is not the exhaustive list of all of these platforms, but they are the popular ones, and they both have e-commerce capabilities on here, and very simple. I say simple to get started. It's much easier with the drag and drop compared to say WordPress. So we're in the WordPress. If blogging, if that kind of idea is really important to you, WordPress is where blogging kind of started, even though the other ones have actually gotten better with blogging. WordPress.com, it starts at a very low cost. Basically, you just go in. They have a hosting platform. You can pick from templates, but it's an all-in-one. It's kind of like its own site builder. So you're limited with your templates. WordPress.org is the one where most people do it. I can't remember what the percentage is, but there's a lot of people that use WordPress. It's just a little more difficult to build on. But what it allows you to do is you can transfer from hosting. So you'll actually have to have a hosting like a GoDaddy or Bluehost or something like that. You upload your WordPress files and you have a multitude of templates, including artistic templates that you can get started with. Good news is if you start at WordPress.com, which in my beginning days I did, you can actually export those files and then go to a self-hosted when you're ready. So if that is the path you want to go, you can also do that. The other couple are Shopify, which has very e-commerce focused. They do a really great job with e-commerce. Their blogging, their marketing pages are a little bit more limited and a little bit more difficult, but it is a very popular e-commerce platform. And SquareUp is sort of new. but it's just another, it's from Square, you know, the little things that I'm sure you guys, when you go and sell your art, have the little square that used to go on our phone. They actually have websites now. So it is kind of a turnkey e-commerce solution as well. All right, so that's platforms, that's getting started. The website 101 is really the webinar to check out for that, and I talk a lot more in that about that. Checklists, your search engine optimization. And I don't mean when I talk about this, you can spend thousands of dollars to get someone to go in and make sure on the first page of Google. It's not what I'm talking about here. It's just about optimizing for search. So what Google and all the other search engines basically do is the algorithms support the user experience. So if you think of the checklist I'm going to go through based on the user experience, it's going to help your users, but it's also going to help with your search engine results. And that's keyword strategy. Remember we talked about the target audience. This is where you really get to know them. What are those short one words and phrases that they're searching on? Backlink strategies, what that is those links in between your pages. Make sure you do link them properly in between your pages, and those external links like Kara had in her footer. It can external links to galleries. You can do external links to other relevant. Just make sure they're relevant and they make sense. Never ever buy links. That is not a good idea. You'll get blacklisted and it's so not worth it. Local signals are things like directories, social media. If you're in a gallery, if you have a physical location or you want to share your address, make sure it's on the website. If you say you're a Mississauga artist, like put that in your on your homepage, right? Your SEO paragraph. So, hey, I am a local artist in Mississauga, providing acrylic design, all of that great stuff. And so write that in because people will start to type things like that. And that goes back to that keyword strategy, those directories, things like Google My Business, other directories that are out there, MississaugaMade.ca. Make sure if you're a local Mississauga business owner that you're on there, and that's another signal that can come back, including social media, encourage online reviews, obviously great content, which is why blogging is really good. Don't just throw your website up there and let it sit. You need to keep it fresh. Even repurposing old blogs does help. And then it's the back end code. Your user might not see that, but that's where the structure for Google and all the search engines, they start to see it. Way more details on my website 201 if you want to learn more about that. So blogs, if you're going to do it, I have more on that, but just make sure that you don't just throw something up and it's all just a bunch of paragraphs. There are some key things to remember for the user and for Google. Make sure there's an H1, that heading. That lead-in paragraph is really important to kind of get scraped to sort of give that overview. Remember, people scan, right? Like this isn't just for blogs, this is for your website. Make sure there's a photo on every page of your website, something that's going to show up in social media. Those key headlines, right? It's hierarchical. Just go through. People like bullets. And then also we talked about those links and those call to actions. And I'm putting this in here because every time you do a blog, every time you do a web page, make sure you have a goal for that page. What do you want them to do when they land on it? Is it to build awareness or is it to buy? So once they land on this blog, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to subscribe to your email? Do you want them to learn more? Do you want them to contact you? Do you need them to download? Do you need to have them look at one of your paintings to purchase it? All of those things, think about it. It does become a habit after a while when you do create things. So Google, we talked about the directories, right? Google.com/business, go check it out. Free resource, amazing. There are some restrictions around the Google My Business. You will have to check it out. You do have to have a physical address. There's some parameters around that. But if you can do it, well worth it. And there's a whole bunch of analytics at the back end. And then saying that, so when I was doing this research, this is what I did. I went into Google and I typed art exhibition Mississauga. And this is what comes up. Google prioritizes local search. So please do that if you can. So this broken cage gallery showed up. And then, I got to see all the pictures. Make sure there's pictures there. Make sure your address is correct and all the directories have the same address. And your phone number, how you're doing business in COVID. Make sure that information is all there, and encourage reviews, because reviews is another signal from Google that you are authentic. And it helps because people love reviews, and I can't remember the stats, but they always look at reviews first and foremost. So that is one example of a search. And then here's the other search I did. So I did artist in Mississauga, and this person shows up right at the top. And there you go. So it could be maybe it is someone who's searching. And so why would someone do artist in Mississauga? Maybe they're running a piece on it. Or maybe they just go, oh my goodness, I want to buy local, and I want to find out what kind of artists are here. So this person totally showed up, a whole bunch of Google reviews and examples of their artwork. Just an example that well worth it to do it. It just takes a little time and no money for that. If you want to do Google Ads, there's a link here. We also have a webinar on Google Ads. And if you're thinking about adding your product to the Merchant Center, there's a link here for the Retail Merchant Center to learn more. And they also have a COVID retail guide. It's a whole bunch of stuff. I couldn't even go into it, but if you want to learn more, the download link is there. I will share out all of these links afterwards. So, email marketing. Why bother email marketing? It's like so many people in the past have said, oh, it's dead. When I started my business was in the early 90s. I think I started email marketing in 93 when they didn't even have this kind of stuff. We just sent stuff through Outlook. So people, it has been around a really long time, but now more than ever, people are using it. 3.9 billion users, and it continues to grow. 69% more orders if you send 3 abandoned cart emails. So make sure beyond marketing that your sales emails are actually automated and optimized. And at the end of the day, 80% and more of the small business owners are actually using it as a primary channel. So you kind of go, and that's where we talked about the trends. It's like, okay, so they're using it, so we should consider it, right? And this is what this castle consent. If you're not familiar with it, you need to make sure, and the joy of email marketing, it is permission based. So you do need to have consent before you can send them. There's a lot of rules around it. No matter what I say or anyone tells you, you as a small business owner are responsible to understand the guidelines. The link is there. I do have an email marketing webinar that talks more about this, but for today, just understanding what that opt-in means. And in the old days, it used to be you could send it to them and they could opt out. Now you have to actually have them opt in before you can even send that first email marketing. And what you want to do is get express consent. So if someone is your client, you can send them marketing stuff, but it's within a certain period of time. You can't keep them. So that's what we call implied consent. Or they disclosed their address and they didn't say don't send, and it was a public address. It's an existing relationship. But ideally, that implied consent, it has a time limit. So you want to go and get them express consent. So if you have a client, you want to be able to send them saying, hey, thanks, this is really great. Would you also like to be on our email marketing? And you make it really super easy for them to sign up. So ideally, that's what you want to do. If they tell you they do not want to be on your email marketing, you have 10 days to take them off that list. Now, I know most of us have experienced where that doesn't happen. What this is it is complaint based, and you as a small business owner, you still are vulnerable. Like someone can still complain. So please do make sure that you have a way to take people off the list, move them from implied to express. Quite often, that's where the MailChimp and things like that, they have a whole process in place, and they are optimized for GDPR, which is a European one, but Castle is the Canadian, one of the Canadian regulations. So email tips, how do we get and keep our subscribers? Give them a reason to sign up, give them a tease, give them a 10% off, give them a free download, whatever it is, give them VIP status. That will help them because it is something, it's a prized possession. It's their email list, their email. They have to have a reason to give you their email, and make it super easy for them to sign up. Don't have them going through a whole bunch of pages and a whole bunch of forms. Make it easy and available. Personalize it, segmentation. If you have multiple medium, perhaps you want to segment it there. Maybe you have different places in Canada that you sell to, and maybe you want to customize your content based on that. Segmentation is something that you can do through MailChimp and most of the other ones. It's pretty cool how you can do that, and that helps personalize your messaging. And then you want to engage. Remember we talked about experience, right? It's like valuable content, but also make it interesting. Do quizzes, animations, little videos, maybe periodically have a loyalty program, whatever that might be. There is a whole email marketing 101 on that one. Moving along, because I'm sorry, we did have some time lag there. LinkedIn, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. If you are B2B, if you are even potentially your corporate clients, or they're individuals that you figure in a certain price bracket, or they're business professionals that are typically buying from you, it is well worth having your business profile updated as well as potentially a company page. So at least have your business, your professional profile updated, because there's a whole bunch of people up here that really want to, it's a very professional network compared to some of the other ones. Some of the profile tips are to make sure that you fill out your entire profile. Go all the way through, especially the summary. Even add the banner up the top. You guys are artists. I'm sure beautiful work you could put up there. And it's just one of those small things, effort to impact, that really kind of sets the stage and makes it pop. If you're a content creator and you're doing content constantly on LinkedIn, make sure you change your status. It's relatively new, but you can change that status, and it changes your whole profile. It's actually kind of cool. Think about key search words, what you're offering, what kind of opportunities, put all of those things in there, as well as polls are great. Be consistent, show up. Images get attention, videos, right? Videos are on all the platforms. It's important. Remember that they're starting to humanize LinkedIn, but it is a professional profile, professional platform, and you should stay on brand. And that's the link to the LinkedIn webinar. So the fun stuff, let's get to Instagram. This is where you guys are spending most of your time. So IG Live scheduling tool is relatively new, really neat. It's kind of makes you accountable, but it is a way to promote if you are doing IG Live. IG post collaboration, I have an example to show you on that. Reels are now 60 seconds. Video, Instagram's totally prioritizing video, just like everyone else, and they all kind of look like TikTok. Story link, now there's no more swipe on story. You can actually add a sticker link. And as we mentioned, use fewer hashtags. So video for sure, find a way to add video to that, whether it's your IGTV that you add in afterwards and maybe you put it into your grid. More reels really do make a difference there, and that's where knowing what the algorithm is. Make sure you tag your posts for product, people, and location, because it will show up in the feed. So when you look for things, that's what happens. It's just multiple places to show up. And when you mention people, just like Facebook and everything else, it gets notified. And then keeping your grid pretty. And this is something that I always pushed, was keeping that grid pretty. But trends and how it's moving now is they're looking in your audience and Instagram, that it's value first. So don't disregard your branding strategy, but just always remember that value trumps visual, which is sometimes a hard thing to do as an artist, to understand that you have to actually have both. And this is the collaboration post that we just put out. And what that does is when you put it in and when you post it, there's an option to add a collaborator. When you add a collaborator, that person has to accept it. And if they do, it shows up on their grid too. So now you reach way more audiences. And then how do you know it's a collab? It shows up at the top as a collaboration. So you both see the same comments. I'm really glad they did this. It's cool. And then when you're setting up your profile for Instagram, make sure you fill it all out. right? That you have that link that goes to the right place, that you have a location. If you have a location, please put it in. Any hashtags, add it in. And then your profile photo. Make sure if you have a logo that it's consistent across all your channels, or make sure it makes sense. You guys have a little bit more of a leeway compared to some of the corporate brands, but just make sure it represents who you are and they know it's you, right? Don't let them think twice. It's like, oh, is this Sarah's um, Instagram page because it looks totally different than her website. Don't have people second guess at all. So make sure it's clear. Make sure you do have a grid strategy. When you do this channel or any other channel, you have to think about what kind of content, because Instagram content is not going to be the same as LinkedIn. So you want to have that. And then think of a way, your engagement strategy. You do need to spend time. You need to go in and figure out hashtags, who you're going to like. Make sure you go in and comment, dedicate some time to do that because it will help. And then why, if you have Instagram, it's like I get this all the time too. It's like, can I just have Instagram? And my answer is no. And you do have to have Facebook for a couple reasons. One, it adds value if you do events, and that can even be an event, can be a podcast. It could be, even if your gallery isn't on Facebook or doing events, you can put that event up there. Maybe it's painting classes. So do that because Instagram does not have that. And also Facebook has groups, and that's a very focused audience. I'm sure groups are going to continue to develop. It will be interesting where Facebook ends up with all of the uncertainty right now, but just don't neglect it. Just kind of wait it out. I wouldn't do any major changes to your Facebook strategy until everything kind of gets settled with Facebook. But those are the reasons why to have it, but also admin, right? You cannot get the stats from your Instagram unless you have a Facebook page, not the same amount of stats. It also allows advertising, and Facebook Business Suite is kind of that way to manage both. So effort to impact to have the both doesn't actually take a lot more, and it does add value. So those engagement tips, we'll recap on those. Hashtags, make sure you do your research on what hashtags make sense for you. Use them, follow it, and then actually go out and see who else is using the hashtags. Add in your locations because it will show up. Living Arts Center, if you have your gallery there or your studio there, make sure if you're there, add in the location because someone will see it if they search for Living Arts Center. At mention people, organizations, business, look for opportunities to get user generated content, potential influencers, tag people in photos, share and comment, be timely, show up, don't post and ghost, and ask thought-provoking questions. Don't be afraid to put out polls. And so many people say, well, what if I put out a question and nobody wants to answer it? Well, then you try a different question next time. It's not a big deal. Social media is this constant moving. No one's going to worry or see that you did one, but you do want to see constant progress. So if something's not working, try something new. And then those are the polls and join conversations. And remember to take your offline online. It's so easy when you're busy talking to people in person that you forget to actually involve your Instagram. So make sure, or your social media at all, make sure you are intentional in that way. And then use more videos. Find a way. Use your phone, whatever it takes. Do little ones. Research what other people are doing, and then just go and give it a try. You don't always have to be in front of the camera, but you should use video, right? You can go behind the scenes and showcase your work. You can do live video with someone else. Maybe it's your team, your collaborative team, how to do videos, right? Maybe it's those, and the TikTok ones coming up. A lot of them are those how-tos, and then you just talk over it. Games and contests, they always work well too. So content plus engagement, that's where that success sweet spot is. You have to have great content. Make sure you're always a resource for your followers. Don't just be doing promotional stuff. Like, this is what I see often too, is that it's like, oh, I've got a sale coming up. Now I'm going to go and do my social media. Well, no, it has to be balanced. Be a resource for your followers. Be consistent with your posting. Offer that experience. Entertain, inspire, and educate. Those are the three big things that people want to see and experience. Create conversations, and then leverage social to sell, but only in the right time. So that content mix, this is kind of what I've come up with. It's not really a standard or anything more than what I've seen success. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to do 60% or close to it of value added content or engagement times. Spend 25% of your time actually going out and trying to create connections, right? Going out and getting to know your audience, talking to them, encouraging them to come over and follow you. And then you can throw in those promotions, but it's always the promotion is the smallest time. And here's the TikTok. So when it comes to doing TikTok, some of you mentioned you want to give it a try. Just make sure you've got those hashtags. That's huge. That's what people search on. Make sure music in the background, that's the big thing with TikTok. They're short and sweet. Get to the point is big. Make sure your profile is optimized, and then keep your grid kind of consistent. Doesn't have to be consistent, but this person's actually doing really well. And it looks great, and they're just little videos of her painting. Cool. Same with this one, behind the scenes she does, and this is a glass blowing one. Really cool. So TikTok is that mesmerizing kind of platform, right? So to watch glass blowing, I found it unbelievable. It was just, I just couldn't stop. So if you have a medium that has that kind of draw and that pull, or you know you can create the content, I would seriously think about TikTok. And then YouTube, as much as is it social? Is it content? Is it content/social? Think about it, because video is key. YouTube's a good channel. It's one of the most popular search engines. But there's also opportunity to do live and replay. And if you want to leverage video onto your website, it's a good hosting platform, right? You can put it up there just like we do with our webinars, and then you can embed it into your website. Does it help your search engine? I would say probably, considering Google owns YouTube, but it doesn't necessarily mean it, but it definitely helps with the user experience. So if reason is not everyone likes YouTube or videos, but if you take a video and you put it on your website or in a blog, you now have the video and you have all the text for someone who wants to actually see it. You could even do a SoundCloud and audio if you want to do it. And you have all of those ways to access them. And it's super close to purchasing, right? It's not far off some channel. So it's like, oh, this really makes sense. Oh, I love that piece. I'm going to go buy it, and then click right to it. So it keeps everything in that home. But it takes a lot of time. So make sure you consider that. When it comes to advertising, always secondary to your owned and organic content, but keep it memorable, start small, test, and then invest. And make sure that whatever you do, that when you're directing it from that ad over to that place, don't do it to your homepage because it's too big and broad. Keep it really specific, right? Like this is the call to action, and it's going to go right to the product and then purchase. The fewer steps, the better. So the plan, now let's pull it all together. What does that look like? So the content pillars, you're going to hear that quite often in our digital marketing world. Those are basically your key categories. Those are the kinds of things that you're going to dedicate to talking about. And what does that look like? Over the years, it's kind of been, well, it depends on what industry you're in or what business. Well, there's certain categories that are actually quite consistent. It's just the content on them that'll look a little different. So what we want is something to educate. Right? When we talk that whole experience, whether you are selling B2B and it's educating them through the process on the value of interior design, wellness, which totally love that world, in the built environment, and you're telling them why it's important for them to consider green interiors. Maybe you do green art. So you have to spend a lot of time educating them. And you also might, maybe it's the educating on art. It's so to help you build the value of your art. And this is why you're going to sell this for $700. You don't actually see it, but you're going to educate the time and effort, and and you show them the care and the consideration and the hours that go into something like that. That helps to build the value. So there's different reasons to educate, but that how to and tips, sometimes it's fun and sometimes it's serious. But that it all comes down to educate. Promotion, what's happening when your business, Showcase, these are the behind the scenes. These are the sneak peeks and watching the processes and things, the unveiling of new products, can even be user generated content. So that showcase piece applies to everyone. Testimonials are literally testimonials that you might have from clients. Make sure if you have testimonials, put them on your website. Showcase them in your social media. Talk about your story. What's your vision? Help them get behind the why that you have started your art journey, your art entrepreneurship journey. That will help build up your case, and people want to buy from the artists themselves because they know you. They love your artwork, but they also want to invest in you. So telling them your story is really important. Employees is listed here, but employees could also be your collaborative partners. And then what's happening in the local community. If you do charity work, if you're involved, if you're teaching, whatever that might be, make sure you showcase that on your social media, on your website, wherever that might be. And so what these content topic pillars are, they'll help you focus on what kind of blogs, what kind of content, and then you start to plug in the dates based around that, and it keeps you focused, or else you don't know what to even share. And I quite often get that as well. So pick your channels. You don't have to have all of these pillars. You could pick 2 or 3. 5 is a lot of content actually. So do what works for your business. And remember that great content moves people through the sales funnel. And what does that mean? That goes from, remember we talked about our business goals and that brand awareness, that big funnel, right? It's traffic. You're a new brand. We need more people to your website. So that content, what information do we need to share to help them understand who you are as a brand? And then we want to kind of move them through, right? We want to get leads for them. So that means why are they going to consider you and your artwork for their home or their business? And then we got to help them make the decision. And that could be as simple as when you do your product page on your e-commerce site, give them all the information they need. What size is it? How heavy is it? Where is it going to look good in your home? How quickly can I get it? All of those information, it goes, if you get stuck here at the sales because you don't have that information, then you're stuck. You can bring all those people through, but it might actually get bottlenecked at your sales. And that's when you start to go, okay, where am I losing people? And you can start to develop content around that. And then retention, right? Afterwards, how do you keep your clients coming back? How do you turn them into loyal ambassadors for your artwork? Okay. Um, Content marketing, now we have it. Okay, so we've got general categories. We understand the funnel. It's like, okay, so now we got to actually plan, right? So this is a basic one. Use it for your whole strategy and use it for mini campaigns and even use this when you go to write a blog. Figure out why you're doing it. Figuring who you want to read this to and who is actually going to do the action, the call to action. And then what do you have to create? Is it a blog? Is it a video? Whatever that might be. And then is it going to take to make this happen, right? Like, do I need to have money? Do I need to hire someone? Do I just need to set aside time? And then how are you going to share it? Because content is wonderful, but it's got to get out there. Is that going to be through maybe it's going to be on your website, and then you're going to share it through email. Maybe you're going to do some social media posts, and maybe you're going to share it through your network, through a personal email. And then, and not always, maybe you actually want to put some budget around it. Maybe it's a big piece of work that you've done, or it's a whole gallery and that you're promoting. You should probably put some money around it or not, but either way, it can be a paid promotion or just extra promotion where it's like maybe a few phone calls or what that might be. But you have to figure out when and how you're going to promote it. And then how are you going to measure results? Most people do it and then move on to the next, but I would say write all of this down, and then at the very end of whatever campaign you have, actually figure a way to measure your results, because you want to always be reiterating. See, that's the whole point. And just like artwork, right? We're going to do it, and then next time we're going to do it better. But if we don't measure the results, we can't actually manage our success. And how do we do it and stay organized? Well, you can use a spreadsheet, you can use a book, you can use paper, whatever it is. I caution you against the paper unless you're a one-man show because it can't be shared so well. But I always make notes on paper too. But an editorial calendar, basically what that is, it's your schedule of your content. And there's a free it's a free template that you guys can have if you want to do the spreadsheet world. The other thing is Asana is one of the tools that we use, and it has a really good freemium version. The nice thing with this is you have it on the app. You can also share it with other content people. So if you do have someone helping with social media or marketing, you can actually have people come on board. And they have awesome templates too. If you're looking about scheduling and you want to batch things and maybe Monday is your marketing day, Buffer's a way to do it. There's also something called Hootsuite, which some of you might have used, but there's also other ones. So Buffer's not one I've used. Hootsuite I have used. You just have to figure out to what end works for you. Plan That's another one I've used quite a bit, and it does Facebook and Instagram, and now it does LinkedIn. And what I like about this one is you can actually plan your grid ahead of time. It's one of the only ones that does that right now. And then business.facebook.com is that business suite. So just basically you just open up your Facebook and then you put in business.facebook.com and you go into the management side. If you're just doing Instagram and Facebook, it's probably the best way to do it rather than spending money on something else because it is free and you can create content and schedule it. It's all great. We have a couple sections left and one is content. And what does that look like? So if you are doing content, just always keep in the back of your head that you want to build that engagement. So get to the point, you only have a microsecond of attention for them. Tap into those emotions, tell that story, be unexpected and go, oh, wow, that's really cool. In a good way, be unexpected. Make sure it's timely and relevant and that engaging piece. And also everyone knows that everything is mobile nowadays. So make sure it's optimized for mobile. And that is just a general feeling of what you should do when you get into your content strategy. If you haven't used something like Canva before, I recommend checking it out. There are other graphic design tools. It's just super easy. You can use it on mobile as well as your computer. And I know graphic designers that even use this too. So it's super easy for social media and there's a whole bunch of templates and it's cost effective. This might be not necessarily for you editing your art pictures, but this could be potentially for doing your social media or even some print. So this is what it looks like in the back end. If you even just Google artwork, it pulls up all of these different ideas and you can do social media. There's flyers in here. There's little ads you can do it and they're all optimized for whatever channel that you want. And for example, this, which I didn't know Canva could do till I found this, and it is a mock-up. Super easy. You just add in your picture and it looks like it's in a space and you can change. Now you might not be able to change the colors in this picture, but you can also export these to little videos. So Canva works really well. If you're into the Adobe world, Adobe is, right, it's the leading software out there for editing. But it's also very expensive. This is a program that's the only one, and I know it from years ago, that you can actually edit Adobe files. They have Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator, and incredibly cost effective. So if that's what you're looking for, I would check these guys out. And then I also found canvy.com. Super cool for doing mockups without having to actually get into the Photoshop world. There's different pricing, and what you do is you just add in your picture, and then poof, it's actually part of the living room. So this was a photo I took up north. Looks pretty good. So that's just another tool. There's so many tools that are out there these days. If you want to get really creative and get into augmented reality, this is an online tool that you can use. And you don't need to have any coding background. There's various pricing. And so that adds to that experience and it adds to that value. So if you're doing a gallery and you want to do something neat and you want to create some stuff throughout, that, or add a little extra piece to your artwork. It can actually add more information that's necessary. Maybe it's a history of your art. Maybe it adds to the art. It actually is an art thing. It does take a little bit of work to do this, but it's a cool opportunity. And augmented reality is definitely augmented, and VR is going the future. So if you're doing video, some quick tips. Make sure you do have a plan. It does take time. Figure out what type of content you want to share and how much time to produce it, because it does take a while. And I know, but it doesn't have to. If you're doing social media video, maybe it's just quick, like IG Live, no problem. No editing. You go and you do live and you post it. But if you're doing bigger content that's going to take longer and it's going to have more longevity, you're definitely going to want to have a plan. Be consistent and frequent, especially on YouTube. That's what they want, is frequency. Be patient for getting results. There's sometimes some videos, like it'll take a little while to tweak it, but there's videos on YouTube that after years, all of a sudden takes off. So don't forget that it doesn't necessarily have to happen right away. Use those keywords and phrases when you put them in the description. Make sure it's watchable without audio. If there's a caption option, I would suggest putting that in, and then leverage those other channels to promote it, right? So if you have your website, like we said, in YouTube, and you want to embed it into your website, that's a great way to promote your video. And then write a script. Make sure there's a quick intro, and you have a hook to keep them going, right? It's like, this is what I'm going to talk about. This is who I am. This is what you're going to find out. Give them what you're going to find out, and then tell them what you want them to do. Keep it really crisp, and make sure you do write that script, whether you actually read it, but put it in place and ready to go. That also, we do have a webinar on that one, so you can check that out. And for photography, here's some tips. Now, I know we had some photographers on the list that were going to come today. So if you are a photographer and you want to drop your email in the link, or your website in the link, and you do help artists with their photography, please drop that in, and I will put together a list for that to share out, if that makes sense to you guys, because mine is pretty basic knowledge, and I'm sure you guys have more resources than I do. So the photography tips, what I understand is the best way to do it if you do flat art is to put it against a white background. Use a quality camera. That doesn't necessarily mean have to be a big DSLR. You can be an iPhone, and there's some tips in a link below that I have. Think about composition. If it makes sense, if you have ceramics or something like that, where you want to actually set the stage to give people an idea of how to use it, think about that composition. Also keep it straight on the camera, parallel to the image, so that it doesn't distort it. And then honestly, take multiple pictures. Just go all different angles, especially if it's a 3D sculpture or ceramic of some type, and make sure you even think about coming down from the top. Use natural lighting whenever possible, and if you have to do it in a studio, think of that 45 degrees. Play around with your lighting. Just make sure it looks as natural as possible. You want to minimize the amount of editing that you have to do. And then expand the photo. So don't take your photo frame and have it right up to the end of the artwork. Make sure you give it a little bit of space, and then you can crop it out afterwards. Keep that camera steady, whether or not you use a tripod, lean up against the wall even, or use a gimbal, but you want to reduce your blurriness, and then use that editing software just to tweak it at the end for color brightness and cropping. And that is your mobile phone tips. I thought they were really cool, so I will share that link out with you guys too. And then at the very end, we want to make sure that we track our performance. And where do we get those metrics? As we mentioned, Google Analytics is it. So if you decide, like I suggest, is that the website is the hub of everything, then all your data points come right to that Google Analytics. And it's incredible what you can get from that Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager. Google My Business offers some social media insights. All of that has it there. Advertising reports. Sometimes it's those third-party niche platforms too, like if you're on Patreon or Eventbrite, different galleries, traffic, things like that. Make sure if you're doing ads or wherever you are, make sure that if you don't have access it, ask them for those metrics, because that will help you inform your decisions. Email campaign reports. Social Mention is an online free tool for measuring your brand awareness. Google AdWords is also, if you do Google AdWords, they will give you campaign results. And then if you do things like surveys, right? Questions, interviews, things like that. And then those in-house things. If you're in a gallery, how much traffic do you go? How many phone calls did you get? All of that goes towards your performance metrics. Make sure you collect them, but don't just collect them for the sake of collecting them. You really want to evaluate and see what it does. And I'm a big believer that there's truth is in the trends. Don't panic if all of a sudden something dives down, your traffic dives down, because there could be so many things. Just start to figure out all the things that are going on, watch those trends, and then analyze them from there. And that being said, there's things like follows, website traffic, post reach, a lot of these social media, and we want to consider the funnel, right? So if you are finding that you've got a lot of follows, a lot of website traffic and post reach, but things are getting stuck in the funnel, this is where those data points are going to help you understand what's happening and then what you can do from there. Email opens and clicks, video views, post likes, post reshares, comments, are more qualitative, the comments, ad conversions, online purchases, all of those make sense, and they're just a list, but you need to take those metrics, look back at your marketing goals, make sure that they're supporting your marketing goals, because you don't want to track everything, because that's just too much work. There's too much data out there. But if your goal was to get traffic to the website, then you're going to want to watch website traffic. Where is the traffic coming from? You want to see referral rates, right? Where did they come from? And actually, we're going to talk about that in your Google Analytics. So this is kind of what a dashboard looks like there. And those are all the stats that you can do. So you get to see who's coming. The acquisition piece is where are they coming from, right? So all of a sudden, are you getting traffic from Facebook? Or what if you're doing so much work on Facebook and nothing's coming? And then you kind of go, well, if I'm trying to ultimately have everything come back to my website and there's nothing coming over here from that work, then what's happening? Then you have to think your Facebook strategy. Maybe your strategy for Facebook is just to keep them there and sell them there. So that's where you have to have a channel strategy for all of them, right? Your website's the hub ultimately, but you still have to have a strategy over there. So that's where you need to take your Google Analytics and some of your other insights. So on Google Analytics, your acquisition behavior is when they show up. What are they doing? What pages are they visiting? How long are they staying on the pages? What other pages are they going to? And then we have conversions, and that's when you set up your goals. So if they're coming in and your goal is for them to purchase something, that will be under conversion. So you have to set that up. And you can see what cities they come from, the social networks, what landing pages. This is just an example from years ago. So, but it looks the same. So this is an example of your dashboard. If you want to learn more, Google Analytics, there's a ton of stuff out there. They have a whole place where you can actually learn from Google Analytics. There's an education piece. Lynda.com through the City of Mississauga's library is free. Basically, it's LinkedIn Learning. And if you have a library card, it's free. There's a whole Google Analytics series in there too. So there's a lot of learning, but don't get overwhelmed with the data. Make sure that you have a clear strategy and just pick those data points that are going to make sense for you to know that you're going in the right direction. It can be very overwhelming. So at the end of the day, key takeaways: build your brand strategy. Know the who, what, why. Give value, build trust, and offer experience, right? Those three things. Every time you do something, make sure that you are hitting one of those three things. Make sure you have a plan, write it down, get to know your audience and get to know them really well, and constantly be updating that as you learn more about them. Start with your website. It is the hub. Social media, so many channels. Just pick one or two. Do them and do them really well. Be strategic. You know, every time you do something, marketing has to make you money. It may not do it right away, but you need to follow the path, and that's where the plan comes in. So be strategic, and when you do, and your time is money. So that is where clear goals, and every time you do something, remember that content thing and make sure that you follow the path. Be consistent, and it's really hard. Everyone says, well, how often do I have to show up? How often do I have to put out content? Well, just decide to do it and then do it. So if you're going to do an IG live once a week, do it once a week if you can handle it. You don't have to do it every day. Or if you know you can only post twice a week, then post twice a week. Just be consistent every week. And then remember, good content moves people through that funnel, right? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to sell. And it also inspires, entertains, informs, and engages. And then remember that this is a journey, that you are going to go out and you're going to make mistakes, because it's not even mistakes. It's just you put it out there and you test the waters, you learn from it, and you evolve and you go, okay, I'm going to try this instead. I'm going to try this. And next thing you know, you're going to get better. So definitely measure your success, go out and try it, always be reiterating and improving along the way. And your digital marketing will take off.
Getting a lot of thanks in the chat, so thank
Good.
you to everybody for coming out, and thank you for sharing all of your expertise and crafting this specifically for visual artists. It was really wonderful.
Yes, and well, thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to get all these artists out there so that we can start, understanding what they're doing and sharing with the world their skills and amazing gifts. So this is awesome. That's
And
pretty cool. Um, all right. Well, we're going to call it a day because it is 8 o'clock. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us for Digital Marketing 101, and Brianne and Aldiana from Culture for an amazing residence program that you guys are offering. So thank you for that.
well, thanks so much again. Thanks to everybody for coming out, and thank you, Laura.
No problem. Thank you.
All right.